Welcome to Flipped Classroom. Today's lesson will provide helpful hints for writing Essay 1 about rhetorical strategies, ethos, logos, and pathos. Let's begin by reviewing the 4 rhetorical strategies. We have ethos, and that is when you have an expert who's credible and trustworthy and has authority on a topic. So you're persuaded by his or her expertise. Logos, that's when the speaker uses facts and statistics and makes very logical connections that are persuasive. And finally, that's pathos. Pathos pulls at the heartstring. It relies on emotion. And those emotions can range from happiness to sadness to humor to the wide variety of emotions we feel when reacting to a controversial topic. I'd like to show you how to apply this to the first video, which was the White House press conference. In your essay, you should begin by summarizing what did President Trump say. You might even want to point out what Dr. Fauci, Vice President Pence also said about how Americans should react to the first death of COVID-19 in the United States. You should also be addressing who is the audience for this White House press conference. And the answer falls along the lines of it's the American people. But also people from around the world do look towards the United States, especially at a time when the world is facing this new mysterious disease and there's not much information about it. You would then apply your critical thinking skills to determine which rhetorical strategy are using to meet the expectations of this audience that knows very little about this new mysterious disease. You would definitely focus on ethos. President Trump and his administration are presenting themselves as experts on the government with experts in medical fields such as Dr. Fauci. So they have credibility when speaking. They have that authoritative presentation that is believable. They also use logos. They present facts. The main fact being someone has died in the United States from COVID-19. They also try to make logical connections to explain to the American people and people around the world how they should respond now that somebody has died in the United States. What's lacking in the White House press conference is a focus on pathos. You don't see too much pulling at the heartstrings, the individual story behind the one person who has died from COVID-19. So you'd ask yourself, why would they leave out the emotional part of COVID-19? And the answer goes back to the audience. This audience is looking for facts. They're looking for information. They're looking for guidance about what to do facing this mysterious disease. Next, you would apply the same steps to the Azar interview on Fox News. You'd summarize the content. What is he saying to the American people about the first death from COVID-19 in the United States? His audience is Fox News. That tends to be a more conservative news site. Many Trump supporters watch Fox News. But most importantly is that people that watch a news channel are looking for information. Particularly, in this case, information about this new mysterious disease. So you'd ask yourself, what rhetorical strategies is Azar using to meet these expectations of an audience seeking news with more of a conservative slant? He definitely uses ethos. As a government official, he holds the credibility of the United States. Because he's Secretary of Health and Human Services, he would also have credibility to address health issues. He may not be a doctor with scientific and medical background, but he would be familiar with how the government is tackling the COVID-19 issue and the government information that the government holds. He also presents facts. Once again, a news audience is looking for facts and statistics, and he meets that need through logos, presenting this factual information in a logical manner. Similar to the White House press conference, there isn't much pathos being employed. He isn't telling stories, he isn't pulling at heartstrings. He's really relying on his credibility as a government representative who has factual information to present to the people. A news audience wouldn't necessarily be seeking lots of pathos, so he does meet their expectations. John Oliver has a completely different audience. He is on HBO, which is a paid programming for primarily adults. In other words, people go out of their way to make a conscious choice to invest money every month to see his programming, unlike a press conference or Fox News, which is on regular network TV. An HBO audience is looking to be entertained. In his specific show, it is a very liberal-leaning audience, tends to be Democrats, non-Trump supporters. So to meet his audience expectation of entertainment, he relies on pathos. He tells jokes. He does include some logos. There is factual information in his video. But he surrounds that factual information with pathos because the audience isn't tuning in for hard news. So he meets their expectations. Ethos. Is he a credible expert on coronavirus or the government? No. And he doesn't invite any experts on to talk about COVID-19. So ethos is missing in his video. But then again, an HBO audience that pays for entertainment isn't necessarily looking for government experts on a disease. Saturday Night Live also uses pathos. You would summarize this skit in your essay and point out that, like John Oliver, Saturday Night Live is for entertainment. The audience expects humor. They want to laugh. And Saturday Night Live in particular does political satire, which means they poke fun of politicians to present their point of view. Unlike HBO, Saturday Night Live is on network television. It's free, so nobody pays for it, which means some people might stumble upon the channel, unlike an HBO audience that goes out of their way to make a conscious decision to watch it. Keeping this type of audience in mind, the rhetorical strategy relies heavily on pathos, jokes, humor, emotions. There are no experts on Saturday Night Live, but the audience would not be tuning in at 11:30 at night for factual information from comedians. Same with logos. There might be some facts thrown in there, but they're not very reliable because the audience knows they are comedians. So Saturday Night Live takes a different rhetorical strategy to present the perspective on how Americans should respond to the first COVID-19 deaths. After you've summarized the videos, identified how they use ethos, logos, pathos, start thinking about similarities and differences. President Trump and Alex Azar clearly focus on ethos and logos. John Oliver, Saturday Night Live, have a stronger slant to pathos. What they all have in common is they're all trying to express to an audience how they believe Americans should respond to the first death from COVID-19. In addition to listening to their words, also pay attention to the mood and how they express themselves. Do they seem worried about COVID-19? Are they nonchalant and worry-free? What's unique about these videos is they are set in the first days of March, and you'll notice that they are shaking hands, touching their faces, things that we now know spread COVID-19. So even their behaviors send a message about should you worry or not worry about the spread of COVID-19. That is part of your critical thinking to determine what message they are sending to their specific audience. The whole point of this exercise is to really understand an audience and the role rhetorical strategies play. Let's think of this scenario. If Alex Azar read the Saturday Night Live script on Fox News, what would the Fox News audience feel? Would they expect that, or they'd be in shock? Flip it around. What if John Oliver read Trump's speech on Late Night with John Oliver? Would that work for an HBO audience? In both cases, the answer is no. Alex Azar's audience does not want jokes. John Oliver's audience doesn't want a whole bunch of experts. Apply this to your life. Think about when you're trying to persuade someone. Do you use different persuasive techniques in an English essay versus if you were talking to a 6-year-old versus if you were talking to your best friend? You probably would. Completing this step is part of coming to a universal truth. What do we know about audiences? You go from the very specific, these 4 specific videos, and take it global. And part of doing this is also making an evaluation, a judgment. Which of the 4 speakers was the most convincing to you? That is what goes in your conclusion paragraph. Okay, so in review, make sure your essay is focusing on the rhetorical strategies in the specific cases of these 4 videos, and then taking it broader, what can everybody learn from analyzing rhetorical strategies? Thank you for joining me today in Flip Classroom.